Welcome back to another episode of the HigherUp podcast. I'm your host, Michael Smoke, and in this episode, I'm going to be sharing with you some beliefs, understandings, and perspectives that ultimately created what I believe to be success and abundance in my life as I know it today. And that's not to say that I have it all figured out and I know exactly where I'm headed and I've hit every goal, income, personally, professionally, emotionally, and spiritually. However, I have been fortunate enough to feel fulfilled, feel financially secure, and have a strong network of people and ultimately, most importantly, a sense of purpose and path in my life. And so I'm going to be sharing with you some of the beliefs, behaviors, and realizations that I've had over the years that I think facilitated the environment for that to exist. And transparently, I had a bit of a creative block and asked on my TikTok page, what would you guys want to see me talk about today? And some of these relate directly to what an overwhelming majority of the comments said on the TikTok. So this is actually going to be one, two, three, four, five, six. I think I might have said five at the beginning. Six skills and beliefs that I believe created abundance in my life. Before we get rolling, really quick, I do want to say this podcast is brought to you by Dream Recovery. No, I don't have an ad read. I don't have anything. Actually, what I do have is a hat handy right here, a Dream Recovery hat. And what do I have under it? Oh, another Dream Recovery hat. So Dream is run by an incredible man named Todd Anderson, who's a friend and just a hell of a human being. They produce and create all things sleep and recovery product related. So sleep masks, mouth tape, and nasal strips, which I am a huge proponent of those two things for my sleep. Their sleep mask is the best on the market, especially this new version they have out. But they also have blue light blocking glasses, and I'm trying to get Todd to release some of their merch because it's dope. So if you want to support me, support the show, and will get ultimately way better sleep, go over to dreamrecovery.com and use code HU, that's letter H, letter U for HigherUp, and that'll save you 15% at checkout on your sleep performance products. Now, without further ado, I ain't going to be a walking billboard. I promise the show's not going to become that. I want to get into the skills and beliefs that changed my life. And the first one, this is in no particular order. This is in the order that they came up in my mind and on my heart. The first belief skill that changed my life is developing sales skills or an understanding of how the sales process and the psychology of sales works. One of my favorite quotes from Robert Louis Stevenson says, "Everybody lives by selling something. It doesn't matter what you are, who you are, what you do, where you do it. You are selling yourself every single day. You are selling a product, some of you in your profession. It doesn't matter if it's dating, corporate life, trying to fit into friend groups. You are in sales in everything that you do." And so if you're not like me and didn't spend 4 years in a college or 2 years in a college where you graduated from a sales program, because that's, for those of you who don't know, my bachelor's degree, my bachelor's of business administration is in professional selling, which is not super common. There's only about 30 schools in the country that even do that, and only about 70 in the country that have sales classes. It changed my life. Like, it is one of the best decisions I ever made in my entire adult life because it taught me real life skills. Now, I said sales skills or understanding the sales process. So I'm going to break the sales process. This is working strictly off of memory based on what they taught us in college at Kennesaw State. But the sales process in a nutshell is this. And this is how it used to appear on a rubric that we were graded on, because we used to do mock sales call role plays and we'd be graded on our ability to go through a sales process. So all of the sales training books have developed different vernacular and terminologies to ultimately get to the same thing, which is that every sale boils down to this process. And in the beginning, you have the introduction and building rapport. That's forming a connection with the prospect. That's the banter, the light conversation, the getting to know each other. Where are you from? How's your wife and kids? Oh, you played football at Georgia. That's great. I'm a Dogs fan. That sort of banter that exists in the beginning of the process in a sale. And then you have the background questions or the current state questions, which is understanding where you're at now. Like, where are you currently? What are you doing right now? In the sales world, that would be, what are your current business systems? What are your current partnerships in place? And then you have the needs identification or the challenge questions, which is, here's the current state. What are you struggling with right now? What are your biggest problems? And then from there, it's understanding the impact of those problems. How are those problems negatively impacting the business? Are they keeping you up at night? Are they straining your marriage? Are they straining your company? Really getting deep and digging into the pain of why you're in the meeting to ultimately, hopefully, fulfill a sale if you're a fit for them and they're a fit for you. From there, you have needs payoff, which is, hey, based on what you've told me, summarize in college, I would have summarize, prioritize. So summarize what they said to you, figure out what the most important problem is, and then say, based on what you've shared with me, I think that we might have a solution that's a fit for you. And then you give a sales presentation. This is all very condensed and very academic. It's not always like this in real life. Then you give a presentation tied directly to the challenges that they have as it pertains to your product. So you only highlight and focus on the points of your product that could solve their business challenges. And then ultimately you do trial closes. How's all this sounding? What does this look like so far? How do you see yourself using this? And then you ask for the sale, you ask for the business. Now, that's a very condensed process, but that is a sales process in a nutshell. And I hope you can see now how that translates into everything that we do. Let's say you want to negotiate a raise in your job and you're in operations or management. Well, you need to understand the current state. What's the company budget? What is the industry bearing for a salary like this? You need to understand the challenges that you came in and filled as a worker. How did you streamline process? How did you cut down on turnover? How did you increase and drive revenue? You need to understand how you filled the gaps and then sell yourself as the person that did that, position that ROI, and then ask for more money. So if you understand how to sell a sales process works, you can sell yourself on a raise. When it comes to romantic relationships, even this is sort of a comedic version of that, but everybody has a current state. They've got gaps and challenges that they need filled. And it's your job to show them how you're the best fit to fulfill those challenges or solve those problems for them. So this sales process exists in everything in life. And if you can understand it and then understand the psychology of sales, for example, in Sandler Selling Systems, a very popular nationwide, maybe worldwide sales training course, there's a rule. They have these Sandler rules. And one of the rules they state all the time is that this is the psychology of the consumer. Buyers make purchasing decisions emotionally and then justify that purchase intellectually. Take any purchase you've ever made. Typically, it's an emotional decision when you buy anything outside of basic essentials for human life. You buy the iPhone because you like the iPhone, not because you need the iPhone to survive. You like the colors, you like the functionality. It's all emotion based. But typically, purchasing decisions are rooted in pain because change is uncomfortable. We don't like to make change. So I know now if I can get to the pain, I can make a sale. And so understanding that allowed me to position myself to make way more money than I had any business making at 24 years old in the corporate world, and enabled me to drive revenue in my personal life, or excuse me, my corporate life. And now it enables me to build a coaching business and monetize my personal brand. But I also use elements of that in the interpersonal relationships in my life. And it's not manipulative. It's just an awareness of how we as humans work. So buyers buy emotionally, and then they justify that purchase intellectually. So as I started to understand the psychology of sales, I started to understand that sales is in everything that I do in my daily life. And I was able to position myself in a more favorable stance or opportunity for my life in multiple facets. And so I encourage you to pour a little bit of time into sales training resources, whether you're in sales or not. So some things that come up for me are the Sandler Selling Podcast, The Challenger Sale. That's a controversial book, but it's got some good notes. Customer Centric Selling, Spin Selling, Gap Selling. These are all books. But then the Sandler Selling Podcast. I think those are some resources you could get into that would be really, really powerful to listen to and learn from. So that's the first skill that I think of that came up. The second one is the gamification of life. Understanding that everything in this life is a game and that none of it's real and that none of it's that serious. When I took the lens of life as a game, it added a lightness to it that allowed me to view the situations I was in for what it is. Now, this works really well in your job. Understanding it like a game, and you're the main character and you've got to get points and you've got to level up and you've got to build your credentials and your skill sets and max out those stat lines. Understanding it's all a game allows you to sort of step back and look at the playing board that is your life or your job and make the right moves to put your player, your character in the best position to win the game. It added this degree of, like I said, clarity for me, but also it helped me to realize it's not that serious. And I realize now that some of the best decisions I've ever made in my life are when I take the stress off myself, because stress, high emotional charges, blur decision making. It's another reason I say like it's so important to feel your emotions, because on the other side of processed emotion, positive or negative, is usually clarity. So understanding like this is all a game, none of this is real, and I just want to have fun with it, gave me a clarity that allowed me to typically have better discernment. And people want to say, when I talk about this as it pertains to corporate America, someone always says, that's not fucking fair. I shouldn't have to play somebody else's game. Look, this is as simple as it gets. Life is a game, and you can either learn the rules so that you can bend them to your will and win the game, or you can sit on the sidelines and bitch about how the game is unfair and continue to watch it be played. It's your choice, but the rules aren't changing. So you might as well just learn them so that you can bend them. So understanding that life is a game and that none of it's real was super helpful for me. And I think you guys could apply that to your life in a way that would allow you to make more money and be more fulfilled and have clearer, more strategic decision making. So really, next time you're in a situation with your job in specific, say, if I was in a video game playing myself as a character, what would I do? And it's this goofy psychological mechanism that pulls you away from the situation, pulls you away from your emotion, and gives you some clarity and some discernment to say, okay, well, if this was someone else's life, a character, where would I head? What path would I take? And this works for major life decisions too, like relationships, friendships, starting social media, starting a business, building a business. This works for everything. Like I really view myself as I'm just a character trying to max out my stat lines in my physical fitness, in my future dad lore, but also in my income, my earning capacity and potential, and building this brand, building this podcast. This is all just a game to me. And that doesn't mean I don't take it seriously. That doesn't mean that you don't matter or this doesn't matter. That is not what I mean, because I'm still playing, whether it's a game or not. It's still me. So if I still get hurt, I still feel it. I want to limit that. But the gamification of life was a second realization I had when I was probably 23 years old, entering corporate America, that allowed me to make $1,000 a year at 24 in corporate America, allowed me to rise to a management track way faster than they expected or anticipated. By 24, I was in management training, about to take on a team. And then, well, this took off. So I left. But I sometimes wonder where I'd be at 28 in corporate if I'd never left. And on the track I was at, it probably would have been like at the vice president level somewhere, working a really stable job. But it's just way more fun. So thanks for giving me the opportunity. Love you guys. The third thing that created success and abundance in my life, this is important because I feel people lack it. Basic financial discipline and an understanding of business and business acumen. Going to business school, being in corporate world, and then transitioning that to entrepreneurship has been really, really helpful for me. I was talking to a friend last night, and I realized there's this epidemic of people who don't understand what they need to do for entrepreneurship. But let's start with the first piece of that, which is basic financial understanding. Principally, it's correct advice to say if you want to have money, you should save more than you spend, right? But that's not really practical advice. But just doing the bare minimum with that, like even if it meant, and this goes back to my 1% rule that I talk about, finding your floors in fitness. Early on, I found my floors in my finances. I remember being as young as 19 and saving as little as $10 because that's all I could afford to save. But I knew I wasn't always going to be that broke. And I knew if I could solidify the behavior of just having the discipline to not see $500 in my bank account and going, I have $500 to spend, but seeing $500 in my bank account and saying, I have 400 to spend and then 100 to save, that behavior would carry over when the 400 became 4,000 and so on and so forth. And so it's about creating and facilitating that behavior of basic financial principles. If you can save $5 that month, save it, because you are still creating and solidifying the neural pathways in your brain for a positive reward system associated with saving money. Because so many people in this world, I am so not kidding, I know people personally like this. They'll make a decent money, okay money, or egregious amounts of money and still burn through all of it. I know people personally who make 50 grand or more a month and see that as, I've got 50 grand to spend this month. No, you fucking half-wit. You have 25 to spend this month, and that's an ass load. You're fortunate. People could build wealth so damn fast if they just had this much discipline. So having that basic financial competence, and then I'll add to that, if you have the ability and the blessing and the privilege of hiring a really good financial advisor, someone to manage that for you that's been there and done that. I'm blessed with my financial advisor. He's a much older gentleman, shout out Hank, who's worth tens of millions of dollars and is just helping me do the same thing with the money that I'm making. So the basic financial principles, but basic business understanding too, understanding basic ops, basic management, basic sales, but also I'm talking to the entrepreneurs here. I know there's a lot of content creators, business owners that listen to my podcast. I want you to listen to me. If you're not doing these things, so I was talking to one of my best friends last night and he wasn't, and this can get you in serious trouble with a little organization called the IR. I don't know why I did that. They will fuck you if you let them. If you do not just do like this much due diligence, they will come after your ass. Set up an LLC in your state. Okay, this is the three things you need to do. This is it. Understanding these three things probably has kept me out of jail. Set up an LLC. If you are collecting income not from your 9 to 5 job in any way, shape, or form, you need to do these three things. Set up an LLC in your state. It's very easy. Just go to whatever state you're in, LLC on Google, New Hampshire LLC, or in my case, Georgia LLC. Set it up. Probably costs between $50 and $200 a year to own and renew. Set it up, and then when you have the paperwork for your LLC sent to you in the mail, take it to the bank, whoever you bank with, and open a business checking account. Connect every stream of income, not to your personal checking, every stream of income outside of your 9 to 5 job into that business checking account. Okay. I know I'm helping somebody right now and saving their ass. This is not going to be for everybody. This is kind of a niche piece of advice, but every entrepreneur that's young specifically that I talk to is not doing this. All income, not 9 to 5, that is entrepreneurial goes into that business checking account. You are then going to open a separate account from the business checking. So you should have 3 accounts in your bank. Personal checking, you should have 4. Personal checking, personal savings, business checking, and then this last account, a tax escrow account. Escrow just means holding. This is money I'm holding in escrow. It's in transition. It's in the middle area, purgatory. Take 30 to 40 cents of every dollar you earn and put it in that account like you never earned it. It can be really easy. So again, you make 10 grand in a month. You're like, oh, I made 10 grand. No, you made 7. Take 3 grand and put it. Take 30% of every dollar you earn and put it in the escrow account. Why? You're going to owe that to the government, my G. If you live in California, it's more like 50%. I think I paid 38% in income taxes in the state of Georgia, which is one of the more favorable state and federal income tax total, which is one of the more favorable income tax states in the country. So all that's going to depend on tax bracket. I recommend you get an accountant if this stuff confuses you. But safe bet is, what the hell is that? Safe bet is take 30 cents of every dollar you earn and put it in that escrow account. And then on a quarterly basis, you go to the IRS website, I think, or maybe it's the federal income tax and state income tax websites. You can figure it out through a Google search, and you pay your quarterly taxes, which is, this is the fucked up part about taxes as an entrepreneur. It's kind of a guess, but if you made, let's say $15,000 in a quarter, you're going to take, or let's just do an easy example. You made $50,000 in a quarter. So January, February, March, you made 50 grand. You're going to go pay the federal and local or federal and state governments about 15 grand. So in my state, I think it's a 6% income tax. What is the Georgia state income tax? Let's see I'm honestly just genuinely curious. Georgia state income tax is, cool, it won't load, 5.19%. And then federal is whatever it is, 25 or 30%. So 30% of 50 grand is 15 grand. So you're going to go pay your 5% to the state of wherever you live, and then the other rest of the government, you do that every quarter. Don't do what I did last year and just pay a lump sum at the end, because they fine you for that because you're late on your payments technically. So if you just do those things, you'll be fine with the IRS. But that is so important for someone out there who doesn't have those things set up. And I just felt convicted to share it. The fourth thing that helped create success and abundance in my life, and this is the definition of simple, not easy, is asking for things. Closed mouths do not get fed. Asking for the raise, asking for the guest on the podcast. That's how I got Peter Crone. I just DM'd him and asked him. And that Peter Crone episode is one of the most played podcasts. Actually, it is the most played podcast of the entire catalog of episodes I have. I think it's got like 1 million total streams, which is crazy. But point is, I asked. That's how I got Greg O'Gallagher on the pod. That's how I got Chris Voss on the pod. All of those just come from the belief of closed mouths don't get fed. And so if you have not because you ask not, and it can be really scary, but once you embody the simple belief of I'm not going to die, and the worst that they can say is no, stuff gets a lot easier to manage. So just asking. I remember I got a raise and a base salary in my sales job. I renegotiated my whole comp. So I took my base salary from 65 a year at 24 to 90 a year. And my total compensation, if I hit my targets, was like 165, 170 at 24. But before that, it would have been like 120. But you know what I did? One, I created value. I generated revenue for the business. So that was objective ROI, return on investment, me being the investment, showing my return through revenue generated. But if I hadn't called my boss and said, hey, I'd like to schedule a comp review with you. Can we sit down? He would have continued business as usual. He wouldn't have ever asked me to do that. Businesses never want to pay you more money, which brings me to another belief that just came up. Corporations don't give a fuck about you, small or large. You are disposable, you are replaceable. And that's not something you should take personally because you shouldn't care about them either. Understand that you have a mutually beneficial relationship, but don't be taken advantage of. Typically, companies always have more in the budget. Typically, they can pay you a little more, especially if you take a year or 2 years and you build a ton of value and objective ROI, return on investment, as I said earlier, as to why you're a valuable asset to the company. And then you bring that to them in a case for, hey, give me more money because I did all this for you. Are you tracking with me? So ask. You have not because you ask not. So ask for the things you feel you deserve. Ask that girl or guy on a date. Ask that person if you want to hang out and grab coffee, become friends. Ask for the raise. You'd be surprised. The worst that can happen truly is the answer being no. And that's not that bad. The fifth and second to last belief that changed my life in this list for me is accepting that everything that happens to me is my fault. Jocko Willink has a book on this called Extreme Ownership. Chris Cavallini and I covered this on an early podcast episode about taking ownership for your life. And Chris labeled it as saying everything is my fault. And that may sound harsh, and it may not always be true, right? There are things that other people do to us that are out of our control. But what Chris would say in that situation is, well, what did you do to put yourself in that position to be taken advantage of or to allow that person to do that to you? And the point is not to deprecate and marinate or ruminate on the shame or the mistake. It's that too many people live in the victim mentality. And I know that's an overused word, but it's true. Too many people think, why me? Why me? Why is this happening to me? And when you do that, you rob yourself from the ability to take back control of the narrative. But if I say everything that happens to me is my fault, I increase the likelihood of me being able to change the narrative in the future. When people just say, well, that person did something shitty to me and now I am the way I am because of them, why would you do that? You just gave that person so much power over your life and your reality. That's foolish. And it's not always easy to say, well, the relationship ended even though they were bad to me. I could have showed up better. I could have communicated better. I could have left sooner. That's one of the hardest places that I've found to take ownership within is in romantic relationships not working out. But the rule is the same. It gives you the power. And if you have the power, you can make the change. But if you give the power to other people, the odds of them stepping in and changing your life for you are zero. Zero. Nobody's coming to save you. Everything that happens to you is your fault. That is a tough pill to swallow, but taking ownership of your life controls outcomes. And every time I have done this in my life, when I have found myself in a similar situation in the future, because history repeats itself, I've acted differently. I've behaved differently. And not only that, but I've learned from the experience differently than if I would have said, well, they just did something to me and that's their fault. Extreme ownership of my life has given me a ton of empathy for people. When someone hurts me or takes advantage of me or overutilizes me, it says like, well, what did I do to allow them to perceive me that way? It gives me a degree of empathy for like, they were just doing what they thought was best at the time. It's really my fault for acting the way that I did to be put in the position that I was. Not always easy, maybe not realistic for everybody in every situation, but man, that belief, I burped. I had sparkling water before this. That belief alone has put me in more positive situations and generated more positive outcomes, more income, more fulfillment, and positivity in my life than I ever would have had I stayed in that victim, why me mentality. So that's extreme ownership in a nutshell. The last one, the most important one, is a relationship with God. Now, some of you are going to tune out because you don't like that I'm a Christian. You don't like that I talk about the Lord. You don't like that I'm a believer. Some of you don't understand how real DMs I've gotten. I don't understand how a guy as logical and analytical as you could believe in God. I tell you, that was one of the most resounding comments, was talking about my faith in Jesus, talking about Christianity. And I am being specific. When I talk about belief in God, I'm not, I'm spiritual. No, I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe he died for our sins. I believe he was resurrected. He lived a sinless life, and the wages of sin is death. And when you live a sinless life, death literally cannot hold you. That's what I believe. Oh, he's crazy. I don't answer to you, buddy. Bigger boss that I answer to. So how did I come to that belief? And how did it change my life? Let's start with how I came to the belief. During the worst period of my life. The last 18 months of my life, frankly, in a lot of ways, have been a shit show. Specifically and most importantly, or most heavily, the death of my father. And not even just the death of him, but the caretaking of him for 7 months and the constant stress that put me under. but the wrestling I did to try to control the outcome that was his life. And this may sound like it's taking a bit of a paradoxical or counter, like it's counterintuitive to what I said about extreme ownership. But there's a difference between taking ownership of your actions and surrendering to God and his will for your life or my life. I'll personalize it so I don't project onto you. I wrestled so hard with the outcome of trying to make my dad better that I was just exhausted. I heard a creator that I love. I wish I could credit, but I don't remember his name right now. He's the one who does these videos. He's like what did he say? 5 years of therapy in 60 fucking seconds. Let's go. I know you guys have seen that video because he's going so viral on the internet right now, and I love his content. See if he's right at the top of my following list. His name is, okay, yeah, I can't find it. I'm sorry. But regardless, I was so tired of wrestling with the outcomes in my life that I had nowhere else to turn. And looking back in my life, I see the people that God was planting in my life, because before my dad got sick, I had never really met or been friends with believers. And then when I got into content, which I believe is God's will for my life, to use this platform to talk about him, to talk about my experiences, to help people, I started just meeting a bunch of, at the time, what I was frankly calling Bible thumpers. It's like, why am I meeting all these Bible thumping Christians? This ain't me. I don't get these people. I don't want to be like these people. I'm such an arrogant prick. Anyway, I realized he was starting to place people in my life because he was like, brother, you're going to need these folks in a minute because shit's about to hit the fan for you. I'm going to take your biggest idol. Well, I don't know that God took my idol from me, but that's a bit of a bold claim that maybe not everybody will resonate with. But like, my biggest worldly idol was my father. I was depending so much on my earthly father that I didn't depend on my heavenly father at all. And that might sound crazy to some of you, but it's true. Point is, I got so tired of wrestling with him that I just said, you know what? Take it. And whatever happens, I know it's ultimately for the betterment of me, the glorification of you, and the betterment of others. And so that's how I came to belief in God, because when I started to really lean into building a relationship with him, because I wasn't a believer. I mean, I was agnostic, borderline atheist at one point. And my pastor, Pastor Philip, always says that everybody has a God-shaped hole in their heart, and they try to fill it with everything, and they realize it never works, because only one thing fits in that hole. And the supernatural peace they talk about that I felt when I truly surrendered to God and to the emotional experience I was having, I stopped trying to fight the negative emotion and just went all the way in it, felt it to its full expression. I was happier. I was more peaceful. I was clearer. Better things started to happen in my life. So for me, my faith came from understanding the peace that came with true surrender of like, I know you can't bless idle hands, Lord, so I'm going to do the work. I'm going to take ownership of my life. But I know if I act out of morals, ethics, and obedience, I'll bear fruit. That the feeling I got cannot be explained. It can only be felt and then understood. And I built that relationship through prayer, through asking God to reveal himself to me honestly and openly. At one point, I'll tell you guys a story. I was going through it in like August of this year. My birthday's in August. I was in the Hamptons with some buddies. Sounds like such a waspy ass statement. We were in New York. I just remember praying. I was like, God, I'm going through it. And I know you've showed up for me before, but like, I need you to show me something. I'm hurting right now. And I was also dealing with the confliction of sharing my faith on my platform, because I knew that this doesn't jive with everybody. And I had this big following of radically different backgrounds, and I'm going to piss people off. I prayed that prayer. I read my Bible every day. That's another thing you should do if you want to build a relationship with God, is read the word, start in the Gospels, then go to Proverbs, then Ecclesiastes. That's my order. That's what I would do. Anyway, tangent. I prayed that prayer. 2 days later, I get a text from a guy named Adam Schaefer, who's one of the co-hosts of Mind Pump, which is crazy that I get to say I text Adam Schaefer, because I've listened to Adam on Mind Pump since I was literally 19 years old. Like, me and my best friend Will used to call each other when we were in college. He was at Cornell, I was in Kennesaw, and we would get steps for like 2 hours and just do downloads on the latest Mind Pump episode. So shout out Sal, Adam, and Justin. Specifically, Sal for sharing his faith, and for the other guys for just being so fucking awesome, because what I'm about to tell you in the story pertains to that. I prayed that prayer. Haven't spoken to Adam since June. We texted. That was it. And then randomly, August 13th, 2 days after I prayed this prayer, he sends me, I don't know if you can see this thumbnail. He sends me, that's not good. There we go. From atheist to believer. He sends me oh no, I'm out of focus. Bring me back. There I am. He sends me that video. No text, no prior conversation, just sends me the day God showed me he was real. Sal's Journey, episode 000. And it's Sal's testimony. One of the biggest fitness creators that I love the most in the space, Sal, decided to boldly proclaim his faith. And in this video, he talks about like, I was scared to do it. I didn't know how it would resonate with people, if it would resonate, all the things I was feeling and dealing with. Adam sends me that video with no context, just the video. And I said, bro, that was awesome. Really inspiring for me to see too. I've been talking about my faith more, and sometimes I get cold feet about it. So I appreciate you sending this. Just teared up listening to that middle portion. Going through some very trying times in the personal life. The timing of this is crazy. Thank you, my friend. And then he just responds, I have no idea why I was supposed to send to you. Just thought of you and thought I'd share. God bless. The day before, I said, okay, it wasn't 2 days. It was the day before. I said, what's crazy is just yesterday, I prayed for God to show himself to me in some small way this week because I was needing it. And then you send me that video out of the blue. I think the big man's at work. Thank you for acting on that thought. Like you're just not going to look at me and go, that was coincidence. And also Big Bang. Fuck you. Sorry. I'm supposed to be working on my cursing. Work in progress. Point is, I asked God to reveal himself to me. And every time I've done that and just prayed boldly and earnestly, it doesn't have to be this watered down, oh, Heavenly Father, please, thou shalt show me something. No, I'm like, Father, I need something right now. Like, I'd be crashing out when I pray sometimes, honestly. But Pastor Philip talks about wringing out your heart in prayer. And I do that. Like I pray sometimes like I'm just talking to a friend, talking to my dad. You know, the thing I'd love to do most in this life sometimes is just pick up the phone and call Padre. Like I miss chopping it up with my old man so much, dude. Man, God, I just miss talking shop with him and talking about what's going on. And like now I have that connection to him, to God. And it's beautiful. And he shows up for me in ways that I cannot deny. And so that belief in that relationship has created such a peace and an abundance. And when things are hitting the fan or things feel hard, I lean on the fact that his will for my life is greater than anything I could want for myself in the moment. And every time I believe that, it happens. It comes true. And I was like, he's right again. What I thought I wanted, I do not in fact want. And when I go through hard times, I think of that same verse, James chapter 1, verse 2-4. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you face trials of many kinds, because you know the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance run its course so that you may be complete and lacking nothing. Every time I go through something hard, I go, I know this is sanctifying me. I know this is making me a more whole, balanced, well-rounded, patient, kind, empathetic person that can help somebody more. All thanks to the glorification of God. Great sermon from Louis Giglio at Passion Church that I was fortunate enough to see at the Passion Conference last year about how the worst thing that ever happened to you can be used to turn around and glorify God. And my dad's a perfect example. I've had the blessing to help so many people grieving change their mindset, lean into the Lord, have peace through my suffering. That's like the ultimate source of fulfillment. And I feel lucky. And you might be listening to me being like, what a crazy asshole. The death of his dad is like, makes him happy. No, I miss my dad every day. He's an incredible man. He's my best friend. He's my absolute dog. But to be able to use what I went through for something good and bigger than me, yeah, that makes me happy. So the belief in God and the relationship with God and with Jesus Christ specifically, like a friend, has done so much for me and given me such a groundedness and an anchoredness and a security in my identity, because I know my identity is in him and who he made me to be. And I don't have to conform, do not conform to the ways of the world, but be fortified by the renewing of your mind. I think that's what it says. I might be messing up the word fortified. However, transformed by the renewing of your mind. I understand like God created me to be a certain person. Then sometimes things happen to me or happen to us that I turn to my worldly programming, my worldly ways, and I feel like I need to change myself. But the deeper I've gotten in building a relationship with the Lord, the deeper I've gotten back to that childlike essence that he had in me. And it's allowed me to feel more like myself than I have in a really long time. And I think we're going to close the episode there. So thank you for listening. Let me know what you thought of the episode. So solo episodes are a little tough. I'm not doing them as much anymore, but I'm gonna get more consistent. I'm sorry. I love you guys. I apologize. Pod's coming back on a weekly basis starting this week. Let's do a quick step check and drop your step check in the comments. I don't have my Garmin on. Let's see what the Whoop says on my step check. Make sure to drop your step check in the comments. If you're on Spotify, please rate the show. I would appreciate it. It would mean a lot to me. If you would just drop a rating, it helps the show get pushed out to other people. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe. Steps right now are at 15,495 steps, and it's 2:34 Eastern Standard Time. Now I'm going to go meet my beautiful, lovely mother to pick up a suit for a wedding that got mailed to her house by mistake instead of mine. I love you guys. I'm just going to take a moment. I love you guys. I'm grateful for you guys. The fact that I get to do this for work is a moment of gratitude that I'm trying to get better about consistently sitting in. Like, it's incredible to me. And sometimes I don't know why or how. And I don't try to question it too much because I'll crash out and spiral. But for whatever reason you choose to tune in, I'm grateful that you do. It means more to me than you can ever possibly know. I love each and every one of you. And I mean that. And please, for the random few people that have said, I saw you in public but was scared to say hi, fucking say hi, please. Like, you are the reason I have a job. I want to meet you. I want to know you. For those of you coming to the Atlanta workshop on Friday, I can't wait to meet you. For those of you coming to Austin, we sold it out. Thank you so much. That is crazy to me because this was like the most fearful thing I've done in a while, is taking on this in-person speaking tour. But overall, I love you guys. I'm grateful for you guys. And I hope that these beliefs and opinions that I just shared with you today can impact you positively. And we'll see you in the next episode next week. Peace.